I love visiting Baltimore's parks. I ride my bike along the trail in Herring Run, through the ups and downs of Patterson, on the new bike lane through Clifton, and through my favorite park in the city, Druid Hill. I like to check out how other people use the parks for roller skating and running, hanging out in their cars with music blaring, playing basketball and tennis, swimming in pools, sitting in drum circles, and at picnics and parties. Baltimore's parks are gems, free places to explore and play and spend time with our neighbors. Our parks are open to everyone, but that has not always been true. In this digital tour, I'll take you to a couple of our parks and share just a bit of the history of activists fighting against racial segregation in them. Jim Crow, the term used to refer to laws enforcing racial segregation from the end of Reconstruction through the Civil Rights Act of 1968, touched every part of social, political, and economic life. Jim Crow deputized every white person to police the movement of every black person in public space. Jim Crow controlled where and how African Americans could live, eat, drink, shop, go to school, work, sit on buses and trains, perform as artists, watch movies, and yes, play in public parks and pools. Baltimore's Parks Board enacted a strict policy of racial segregation, even though there was no law requiring it. White people agitated to keep African Americans out of, quote, their parks, and the only parks with infrastructure for African Americans were Druid Hill Park and the subpar golf course at Clifton. Adjacent to the maintenance yard in Druid Hill Park, the city opened a playground for black children in 1909, separate tennis courts in 1919, and a pool for African American visitors in 1921. The pool, known as Pool Number 2, was half the size of the pool white visitors used. It was also the only pool open to African Americans in the entire city. 6 other pools remained off limits. The pool was so popular, patrons had to be admitted in shifts. Desegregation efforts in city parks began to come to a head in 1948. The Easterwood Progressive Club organized an interracial basketball team that they pushed to be allowed to enter city league play. Black golfers successfully sued to have all city courses open on select days to all golfers. Using direct action strategies, the Young Progressives of Maryland and the majority black Baltimore Tennis Club staged an integrated match on the courts at Druid Hill. These young activists circulated a flyer in advance that read, "Kill Jim Crow, demand your rights, organize to smash discrimination in recreational facilities." They also sent a formal letter to Harold Callowhill, superintendent of the Bureau of Recreation, reminding him that there was no law forbidding integrated play. On July 11, 1948, hundreds of people lined the courts to see Mary Coffey and Gloria Stewart, both African Americans, and Mitzi Freischadt and Jeanette Fino, both white, play a mixed doubles match. Before a single ball was played, park police broke up the match and arrested 22 people for rioting and disturbing the peace. Afterward, in the first case of its kind in Maryland, white and black people teamed up to file suit together, arguing that racial segregation violated the rights of both groups. These lawsuits failed, but they were important instigations for changes to come. In 1953, a young African American boy drowned while swimming in the Patapsco River. Although he lived near Clifton Park, he was not allowed to use that pool. The NAACP pushed to desegregate the pools in response to this tragedy, but the Parks Board refused. NAACP lawyers filed suit, won their case, and all city pools were formally desegregated. In 1955, the Parks Board voted to integrate recreational facilities. When pools opened on June 23, 1956, they were open to all. Pool number 2 was eventually closed as part of a push to remove the vestiges of segregation from the park. In 1999, Pool number 2 became Memorial Pool, a remarkable monument to this past designed by local artist and MacArthur genius Joyce Scott. Located at Shop and Commissary Roads, it is well worth a visit to learn more about and meditate on this history. The struggle to integrate Baltimore's parks was not yet over. Know that carousel in the National Mall? Before it was moved there in the 70s, it was in Gwynn Oak Park in Baltimore. It was open only to white children. Protests started in 1955 and continued for 8 years. The amusements were private, owned by the Price brothers, and they considered integration to be economic suicide. But if children were allowed to go to school together, to play together in city parks, why could they not ride the same carousel? Things came to a head on July 4th, 1963, as buses arrived with protesters and the park was filled with police. 282 people were arrested that day. 2 weeks later, negotiations with the owners led to the end of Jim Crow at Gwynn Oak. On August 28, 1963, the same day as the March on Washington, Sharon Langley became the first African American child to ride on the carousel at Gwynn Oak Park. Baltimore's parks have been integrated for decades, but that doesn't mean the fight for equal access to recreational facilities is over. What neighborhoods get what kinds of facilities? Where are youth centers opened and closed? Which activities are encouraged in parks and which are policed? Formal segregation is over, but segregation continues to shape the lives and free time of all of us. Check out the demographic differences between those using public pools and those using private ones as just one example. Desegregation of public space has too often meant defunding of that space, be it schools, public housing, or public parks. We are one public, and we choke our public access at our peril.